Good. Hi, my name is Ben, and today I'll be talking about Japan and its cybersecurity scene. So, as I'm going to be talking about Japan, I might as well start by putting down some foundations of what Japan is. To most people, it's the land of anime, weird TV game shows, amazing food, and wacky futuristic technology. And because of that, Japan has been handed a title of one of the kings of technology. But that's a view of Japan outside of Japan. So what is it really like on the streets? Well, what a better way to do it than to have a look behind the curtain of the world's busiest metropolis, Tokyo. But how do we do that? Well, by following a story of what makes Tokyo and arguably the whole world tick. Salaryman. So, please everyone, let me introduce to everyone our main character, Han Lu. Han Lu is an office worker for a multi-conglomerate company in Tokyo, and he's in his mid-30s. So, Han's rushing to work. He arrives at the metro station, shoots down the stairs, flashes his IC card as he goes through the ticket gates. But as he launches himself down the escalator, he quickly glances at his watch. 30 seconds until the train arrives. Oh God, I've got to rush. So he hits the platform and he shoots over to the yellow line. Looks down at his watch again. 10 seconds. Phew, I've made it. But as Han looks around the platform as he's catching his breath, he notices there's quite a lot of people on the platform, more than there should be. But, oh well, that's only matter, it's rush hour. But as he looks back at his watch again, it's now been a minute and a half since the train should have arrived. And that's a bit concerning, but hey, that can happen. So he looks around again and sees a train conductor on the platform. So he walks over and goes, "Excuse me, where's the train?" The conductor bows and apologises. He says, "I'm really sorry. I don't know where the train is. It's delayed." But as soon as he says that, his hand suddenly hears the rattling of the train coming along. So Han gets onto the train, and as he enters it, an announcement comes over the thing. "My deepest apologies for our delay. We're having technical issues, and we're 5 minutes late. We'll be issuing out delay certificates to our passengers to give to their bosses." Now, where's the problem in this? Well, it's a good example of losing face, which is one of the biggest problems that Japan faces in general, in my opinion. Issue with losing face is it sometimes brings out bad solutions of getting around it. For example, in cybersecurity, a really good example of it is companies not announcing breaches months after they occurred. Now, everyone should know what the problem with that is. Now, one of the main reasons for this is C-suite executives will get fired or will be asked to resign when they announce it. Now, Han's not really thinking about that as he's actually considering what's the technical issues, but Han's late, so he doesn't have to, he's not going to think about that right now. So now Han's on his lunch break after working a couple of hours in the office. And as he walks into his family mart, he sees a newspaper stand next to the cashier. So he picks up a newspaper as he grabs his lunch. And he goes and sits down after paying. He starts reading the front page, and a headline of an article catches his eye. "Billions of yen lost every year to cybercrime." The article details how, over the past few years, the percentage of cybercrime being reported has increased at a steady rate. Now, arguably, this is the same around the world. But why are people concerned about this? Well, in June this year, the Japanese National Police Agency announced they were just about to set up their cyber unit next year to establish a countermeasure to the increasing rate of 34% over a decade of cybercrime. Now, to be clear, this is the first time in the agency's history of setting up anything on a specific area of crime, as all investigations in Japan are conducted by the local police departments, except for incidents regarding the imperial family, which is dealt with by the Imperial Guards. Now, Han finishes work and he's heading back home and following the rush hour crowd as they go into the metro. But before he goes through the ticket gates, the crowd gets stopped by the conductor from this morning who's looking very concerned. And Han walks up and goes, what's going on? And the conductor bows again and says, I'm really sorry. We're still experiencing technical issues which are disrupting all our trains. Now the conductor leans forward a little closer to Han and says, we don't have enough IT staff to restore our systems around Tokyo, and we've had to request support out from other companies. Han bows and goes, okay, thank you very much, and leaves to go to the next metro line, 20 minutes away. Now, Han eventually does get home an hour later, and he's so exhausted he flops onto his futon and turns on the TV. As he lays there, he hears a familiar voice from the TV. So he turns over and looks, and it's the CEO of the metro company in a press conference bowing with press cameras illuminating him. The CEO announces, I'm really, really sorry for the disruptions which we've caused our passengers today. We've discovered our system has been hit by ransomware, which led to us not having access to our systems. Han sits up and listens very carefully. The CEO continues and goes, well, we're investigating the attack right now, but we've discovered hackers have gained access to our systems through a vulnerability in a fax machine. Now, there are some clear issues here which are hindering Japanese cybersecurity. The two main ones found in this part of the story is the shortage of workforce and old technology. Now, these challenges actually don't just impact cybersecurity in general for Japan, it affects the whole of its society. And it's not just me saying this. The Japanese government released their cybersecurity strategy, which highlights that there is a shortage of workforce that are caused by the Japanese aging population and has led to Japan now depending on foreign organizations for cybersecurity capabilities and solutions. Plus, how many of you know what a fax machine is, let alone how to use one? So, how does Japan fix this? Why is Japan even in this situation? They're one of the kings of technology. So how did they fall in this pit? Well, I've mentioned a couple of the challenges that Japan faces, from losing faith, shortage of workforce, the lack of capability, and the fact that Japan is a mix of new and old in many areas of its society, including technology. But this is only a glimpse of the scene. And there's so many more challenges that haunt Japan. So what does Japan and we, the cybersecurity industry, do to solve this issue? Well, one component of the greater solution was highlighted to me during the free trade agreement launch event in March by the British Embassy this year. While listening to the defence sector's specialist, I saw a question that caught my interest. Surely Japan wants to keep their cybersecurity in-house? And the answer to that is yes. It's very easy. Any country in the world wants their own security in-house. And the Japanese government made this clear in their cybersecurity strategy. For example, they stated they want to establish an all-Japanese technical verification system for addressing supply chain risks. But it's not as simple as that. Japan is already struggling to do that because of the challenges it faces. But it knows a temporary solution. Foreigners. So in theory, I'm suggesting that Japan should encourage adoption of services and products from Western and other parts of the world's cybersecurity organizations to help boost its cybersecurity whilst improving their own cybersecurity stance through their own organizations to catch up with the markets around the world. But it's not as simple as that, unfortunately. There are many problems that limit this. Now, Japan is the third biggest economy in the world, with the UK being fifth. So therefore, there is a lot of money that could be invested in cybersecurity in theory. The problem is, apart from a different language, there's cultural differences and biases. It's this concept of, you go into a bar, no one speaks your language, there's no one there to translate for you, and you can't read the menu. How do you do anything in that bar? Well, the clear answer is, do your research, learn the language, learn the cultural differences, but that's not enough for Japan. When I think about the Japanese market, I get reminded of something that I see a lot in our industry. It's not what you know, it's who you know. In Japan, knowing someone who can get your foot in the door with a potential client makes all that research and prep work worth tenfold. So with all that's happened in Han's day, what's the implications for Japan? Nationally, each part of the story would lead to economic problems for individuals and corporations, and on top of that, potential job loss for both C-suites and office workers. What about the viewpoint of Tokyo? Well, it might not seem that major, one of the 9 major metro lines being disrupted, but it still carries a heavy implication on the system, especially during rush hour. To put this in numbers, there's a good chance that that line would be connected to Shinjuku Station, which is the busiest train station in the world. It's been recorded to have up to 3.5 million people daily going through it. So let's say 10% of the metro was affected. That's 350,000 people that could have been affected. Compare that to something like a Wimbledon, which is the oldest tennis tournament in the world. The number of people possibly affected is 1.5 more people, more people than people that attended overall Wimbledon in 2019. For individuals like Han, it could lead to many things. For example, disrupted trains equals longer train journeys, leading to higher chances of being late, which lead to problems like employment, and could lead to financial issues, stress, health, etc. So, what can Japan do to counter these challenges it faces and the impacts it experiences while developing its cybersecurity scene? There are many things they should do, like talking about losing face, but what about the cybersecurity viewpoint? Well, they already have an answer to this. The Japanese government strategy provides a lot of answers to a couple of the challenges that I've talked about, whilst providing solutions to matters that the cybersecurity industry, like ourselves here, already look at, like key supply chain risks. Now, in the past, I've listed these things on the screen, which are things that Japan should adopt to improve its scene. Now, since I've started my journey in Japan's cybersecurity scene, has Japan done any of this? Well, it already has set up its National Centre of Instant Readiness and Strategy for Cybersecurity. But the other things will hopefully be acted upon through their strategy. So where do we, the cybersecurity industry, come in? Well, even getting into the Japanese market can be an interesting experience. Japan is in need of cybersecurity measures, services, and products that will help organizations weather the storms known as their neighbors. Now, I've given you a glance of what Japan's cybersecurity scene is like. What I want people to take away from this talk, though? Well, as a young man with so much to say, with an NDA on his head as well, and asking for at least someone in this room to have a look at the country that I've become very highly involved with and is a massive contributor to the technology we live and breathe, and for them to ask, how can we help? Thank you very much.